Today we've got here one of the most legendary watches deeply tied to motorsport history and another iconic car model. It is none other than the TAG Heuer Carrera. And this watch isn't just any Carrera, but the TAG Heuer Carrera Re-Edition 1964, launched in 1996. So let's take a quick peek into the history of the Carrera and its shared lineage with the Porsche Carrera. In 1963, TAG Heuer found inspiration in the hair-raising Carrera Panamericana race, a dangerous yet renowned event claiming 29 lives in its brief existence. It is to date the most dangerous road race in the history of motorsport, and because of all the fatalities, it was eventually cancelled. This intense race memory lives on, immortalized in the TAG Heuer's flagship Carrera models and the iconic Porsche 911 Carrera today. If you're familiar with the original Carrera designs from Hodinkee and other watch publications, you'll notice that the dial is a little different. That's because the more popular model was in fact the 2447N second generation dial with a different handset and longer indices. This re-edition draws from the classic first generation 2447N Carrera with its black dial with a decimal scale. So the 1996 release offered 3 different dial variations, or different models. The silver model with blue decimal scales, CS3110, a gold model CS3140, and this striking black dial version, CS3111. Then in 1999, the collection expanded with more modern variants, a salmon dial, and now famous silver rings model, very much like the Daytona. The originals, which is the black dial and silver, stand as true reissues of the vintage models. It took 20 years before the latest 160th anniversary TAG Heuer Anniversary Edition was launched, and it was none other than the classic silver dial Carrera Re-Edition, which was a limited edition series in a 39mm case. It was very popular, and of course, they released different versions of it as well. The red dial, including the green dial versions, and finally, to end it all, the Carrera 60th anniversary model came to light, launched in 2023, which was honestly one of the best reissues to date, and that really started to bring back the history of the Carrera. So what about the modern Carreras today? Until today, TAG Heuer Carreras have a very strong association with Porsche Carrera. You can see that they've also launched some special models, including the Porsche Chrono Sprint model, and also their more popular 39mm glassbox model, which is a modern interpretation of the Carrera design. But let's take a look back at the CS3111 model that we have here, which is the original 1963 reissue model. So we have a case dimension of 36mm in diameter, 13mm thick, a lug-to-lug of 44mm, a lug width of 18mm, with a water resistance of 30 meters. It sits pretty flat on your wrist and looks slim, thanks to a crystal that's about 2 to 3 millimeters in height. It is raised and also domed at the same time, giving a stunning distortion when viewed at the side, and also giving the illusion of a larger dial when looking at the front of the watch. So one of the key features of the Carrera 2447N is the legibility of the dial. The Carrera lugs as well, that makes it wear larger than the diameter of 36mm due to the design of the lugs, design that brings the case to wear flat on the wrist, and also a unique dome crystal design that gives the distortion when viewed on the side and also when viewing the watch on the front. So what's interesting is the crystal is held by a tension ring between the dial, and you can even see it at the side of the crystal as well, something that's very unique to the Carrera at the time, keep its water resistance, and all the vintage details are actually carried over from the original. If you look at it side by side with the original 2447N, almost all the details are there. TAG Heuer's decision to go with the classic workhorse movement for this watch is a true nod to its heritage. They've chosen the Le Mans 1873 movement, which in my opinion is because of the layout that is very similar to the original Valjoux 72 movement that the 2447 model was based on, but of course with modern upgrades. It's a cam lever manual wind movement, offering a solid 40 hours power reserve with a running seconds hand at 21,600 VPH. One thing to note though, it doesn't hack, which means the running second hands on the left sub-dial does not stop when you're setting the time. But winding this feels very solid. There's really no worry about winding it. The good thing about this is you don't feel that it's a very fragile movement. It does feel very, very solid, just like the Value 7750 chronograph, which I think is the spiritual successor to this movement. And of course, when it comes to the chronoseconds operation, it's robust and has that fantastic mechanical feel to it when the pushers are engaged. This is the same for the chronograph reset feature, and it is all around very, very robust, very, very solid. Oh, and there's one quirky thing about the 1873 movement. Did you know that the reset hands can be engaged even when the chrono isn't running? Yep, there's a reassuring click when you press on it. Kind of weird, right? I mean, they don't really do anything, but hey, it's one of those odd quirks that make it unique. You don't see it in modern movements as well, because normally in the modern movements, such as the Value 7750, you can only engage the reset chronograph hands if the second hands are stopped first, and you can reset them. So if you're enjoying this video, please remember to subscribe and hit the like button. It really, really helps this channel and helps us to create more content like this. And of course, check out TwoSecondsWatch.com. We have curated watches like this one and many, many others. We also have a variety of watch straps. Both the straps you see in this video are available for sale on our website. Links are in the description below as well. So let's talk about the dial. Here we've got a matte back dial with these cool sub-registers, running seconds on the left, minutes on the right, and hours at the bottom. It's a tri-complex dial design. It's pretty close to the original, and you've got this really well-balanced sub-dial look. But here's the thing, the newer Carrera reissues, before the 160th anniversary models, which has the two sub-dial variants, they sort of mess up the placement of these sub-registers and also the sizing. Take for instance the 80th anniversary edition, which is a tribute to JAG Heuer. Honestly, they're just too far apart for my liking. But you don't have this problem on this reissue model, which is what I really, really love about it. But you know what? When you get close, there's this unique tension ring against the contrasting silver background, which I spoke about before. Yep, that really is pretty cool because you can see how the dial is flat, but at the same time, you got this tension ring. There's this section at the end there with the silver background, which is very, very nice. And I love the white seconds hand as well. Look at how it's curved very aggressively at the end. It's such a small detail, but it's extremely, extremely cool. And here's something fascinating about it as well. The tritium lume plots. Over time, these tritium lume plots have turned into this beautiful orangey kind of white, which is matching the hands as well. Unlike some of the reissues that have switched to super luminova, which either doesn't match or ends up with broken lume. Because sometimes when you buy these watches, it is very hard to get the hands and the lume on the dial to be matching because they have been replaced at some point in time. So if you're buying a watch like this, make sure you check that the lume is matching as well. And in this example here, it's perfect, it's 100% matching, and they've all aged correctly as well. So it's these little details that really make this particular TAG Heuer Carrera stand out, really capturing that vintage essence while being modern enough for daily wear. So let's talk about what really makes this watch truly one of a kind, and in my opinion, something that's very, very special about this model. First, its official name carries a bit of a historical confusion. When it was launched in 1996, and it was called the Carrera 1964 Re-Edition. But recent discovery by Hodinkee revealed that the Carrera was actually introduced in 1963. It's quite amusing that it's still referred to as the 63 Re-Edition, when in fact, Carrera was launched in 1963 and not 1964. Perhaps we should just call it the Re-Edition. Makes life simpler, doesn't it? It's a little surprising that such a significant detail wasn't caught by the marketing people at TAG Heuer and the brand when it was launched in the 1996. But hey, you know, everyone makes mistakes. Story goes that even JAG Heuer himself actually forgot when the year the Carrera was first launched. The other little thing about what's unique about this model that no other Carrera has is the absence of the name Carrera on the dial. So this is a TAG Heuer Carrera 1964 or 1963 Re-Edition, the only model that has missing the name Carrera, but you do see the original vintage Heuer just under the 12 o'clock watch. So why did they leave out the name Carrera? So apparently when TAG first acquired Heuer and became TAG Heuer, they didn't realize that they had the legal right to use the name. Back in 1996, they weren't very sure. They thought it was only used by the brand Porsche, and that's why they did not put the name Carrera on the dial. I mean, of course, today they would never have launched it in this manner, but hey, you know, probably back in the day, in the 90s, the watch industry was probably a little more chill. So let's talk about what I like about the watch. I really like the dome acrylic crystal. It's actually very easy to maintain. If it scratches, you know, due to daily wear, you can just use Polywatch and, you know, it comes off quite easily. And honestly, the acrylic crystal is very, very nice. It's not as fragile as we think. I also like the dial design and the sub-registers placement. To me, the symmetry is perfect and it is one of the best reissues ever made by TAG Heuer. You can also wear this watch without much stress, unlike the vintage model. Due to its robust movement, it's not as old, it's not antique. You know, it's also easy to dress up and dress down, and you don't have to worry as much because of how well it's made. And you can really change the look with the straps as well. Put on the racing black strap as we have it here, or you put on a vintage style strap in another color such as brown, or probably wear it on a vintage Beats of Rice bracelet. It really changes the feel and look, and there's so much flexibility to the design and to wear this watch as well, which comes to the things that I don't really like. If you look close up on macro, the finishing leaves a lot to be desired at this price point. And you got the 30-meter water resistance. I'm not sure if they could have made it any better. It is a vintage reissue anyway, but that also means that because of the water resistance, you gotta be a little more careful when wearing this watch. But hey, it's probably better than the original antique vintage models anyway. So in conclusion, I think I'm really nitpicking for the dislikes. There really is so much to like about this watch. The dial details, the heritage, the racing connection, the motorsport history, the perfect symmetry of the dials, the all-round legibility. It is just such a great watch for any collector. And it's still affordable. You know, prices have been trending up. At least it's not ridiculous. It's still one of the more affordable chronograph neo-vintage watches in the market today. The watch is also fairly easy to maintain. The movement can be serviced, it's not that old, it's a robust movement. The acrylic crystal can easily be replaced, you know, it is worn out. The feeling of what this watch is meant to convey, it does it and does it so exceptionally well. It's one of those watches that you find yourself always reaching for, as it goes well with almost all occasions. And dare I say, even my wife said, it is kind of dressy in today's age of sports watches. You can actually wear it almost like a dress watch. Wearing this watch really evokes the feeling of nostalgia, and is one of those few watches with true history to motorsports. And to me, if you love that, this is surely one of the best watches to add to any collection.